Welcome to the Mind Your Movies podcast. I'm Ryan,
I'm Shane.
and today we're talking all Kubrick.
Yeah, this is exciting. We're doing our first tier list. If you go to our YouTube, we're gonna have the visual so you can see where we're putting all these movies. And yes, we're ranking all of Kubrick's 13 feature films in a tier list style. We got S tier is the best, and then we have A, B, C, D. And I don't think we need an F tier for Kubrick's filmography. Nothing quite goes down to F tier. So
Yeah, I think I think we probably have some similar opinions about some stuff, and then maybe some differing opinions about some stuff. But either way, it's I think it's hard to argue that the that any of his feature length stuff is like really trash. But
yeah,
whatever, teach their own.
yeah. So I think we're just gonna go through chronological order, and yeah, I think this will be super fun. So yeah,
Yeah, this will be great. And even if you're not watching on YouTube, if you just listen in the car or whatever, we'll try to be announcing this stuff pretty regularly. So I don't think you'll be missing anything if you're not on YouTube.
yeah,
Um, but if you're just watching at home, if you're just listening at home, it might be helpful just to jump over to the YouTube. That might be a little more helpful. But
yeah.
anyways, that
Cool.
so we start with his first film, Fear and Desire.
Yep.
Uh,
1953 is sort of a student film kind of a thing, kind of get, figuring things out on the fly. A lot of cool ideas in this movie. A lot of, it's a war movie. It's sort of a theme, you know, themes that he would explore further in his filmography. So it's kind of interesting looking back. After having seen all of his movies, you can look back on Fear and Desire and be like, oh, this is kind of interesting that this is how he started. But ultimately, it's a kind of not super competently made. Uh, Things don't really work that well. I think it's not. I mean, we don't have an F tier. I don't think it would be an F tier. I think it's D tier.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. It's like you said, it's an early thing, it feels very film studenty. It also in a way kind of reminds me of like just low budget like 50s and 60s horror movies that were just like everything was like a monster feature, but nobody could make good monsters for the budget, right? So like you had like trash bag leeches in Attack of the Giant Leeches in the same around the same time, and not that he necessarily does that, but he does have like that kind of forced creativity here that I thought was really interesting. A lot of like interesting things that he has to do here that you don't really see in some of his later stuff. Uh, like one thing that's huge is he moves to like pretty much all sets by the end of his career. Of course, he doesn't really film on location too much, but this was, I believe, on location.
Well,
Certainly looks it.
it's all like shot in the woods, which is also a common thing in like 80s, 90s, like shot on video, like pe made at home
Right.
movies, backyard movies. People just go in the woods and they film something. So it does have a charming thing like nature to it, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely think also if it, you know, I can't imagine watching this and really loving it. I mean, I think there's some interesting themes that he explores, but uh, I mean, he just, especially for Kubrick, like he grows a lot and learns a lot later in his career, and just does all those same themes better eventually. So, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think D tier makes the most sense. And I think this is sort of all relative to his filmography, where there are like hundreds of movies that are worse than Fear and Desire, probably. So but instead of having it in bottom tier is like seems harsh, but I think this is relative to his filmography.
Yeah, I agree. Um, that brings us to 1955 with Killer's Kiss. Um, he's certainly given a little bit of a budget here to actually make a movie, which is cool. Um,
Yep. This one I would also put in D tier.
I could go either D or C tier for this one. I think watching it, there's some scenes that just really like stick in my head of some cool shots that he does, like, and he's still filming his own stuff here, and he has some really cool like shots. Like I think there's one going up a staircase that's really interesting, or whatever. And then there's this really awesome mannequin fight at the end,
Yeah.
which is cool, or fight in a mannequin room or whatever,
Yeah, it's like a
which is
chase in a mannequin factory or something like that, right?
yeah, something
And
like that.
yeah, and this one, his early stuff is like he started with photography also, like sort of, and then he's sort of makes documentaries, and his early stuff does have is like these first two have a more like shot on location, almost documentary type of feel, which is kind of interesting considering how different his later films are from that. But yeah, personally, I would probably put this like below Fear and Desire, uh,
Whoa.
but I mean, if you think it could be borderline C tier, we could put it above Fear and Desire. I'm cool with that.
I would give this. I mean, these are definitely his kind of. This is his lower end, of course, but I think I'll bump. I'll argue for it to be top of D tier for now. Um,
That's fair.
uh,
Honestly, I haven't seen Killer's Kiss in a long time, so I could be like underappreciating it. But I remember Fear and Desire having more interesting themes,
hmm.
but Killer's a Kiss maybe being like a little bit, it has a little bit more of a budget, maybe a little bit more accomplished from a filmmaking perspective. So it could go either way, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. They're definitely again they're very early stuff in his career, and it definitely shows, which is tough, but you know
You got to start somewhere. Even the Masters, you got to start somewhere.
that's right. I mean, by the end of this, we're gonna be like arguing about which masterpiece is more masterful or whatever. So like,
I This is already where we're starting with that, in my opinion. Because moving on to The Killing, to me, this is one of my absolute favorites. This would be S tier for me.
wow, yeah, this was a big surprise for me. I only watched this recently as I was jumping into more of Kubrick stuff that I hadn't seen, and it was very impressive. I was very surprised.
Yeah,
I yeah, there was like a lot of like Reservoir Dog stuff I was thinking of during this movie, which is was for a long time one of my favorite movies. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, it was a lot of fun. The ending is just crazy, and
yeah.
yeah, I can
Iconic.
definitely
The ending is very iconic. This is just one of my favorite film noir, and I love the nonlinear narrative, uh, and I think the voiceover is really great. And yeah, to me, this is probably his most underrated movie. And yeah, I would put it in S tier. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I could see S tier. I would probably have argued like top of A tier. I mean, it it was a fantastic movie. I when I first watched it this year, I did throw it right at like 4.5 or something out of 5 stars. So it's kind of, I mean, it's it's definitely high up there, but there's just, I mean, he has so much stuff coming out that it's like I'm like
yeah,
I don't want to put everything in S tier, but
that's that
I can see wanting to for sure for this one.
that's what I'm wondering too, is like, are we gonna have to limit S tier to a certain number of movies, or you know what I mean? Like, because like, can
Yeah,
we have like 8 S tier movies? I don't. Maybe we can. I mean, we can do whatever the hell we want. It's our tier list.
we can do whatever we want. We can also shift stuff if we can
Yeah,
throw this in S tier for now, and then if we decide later, we can bargain it down or whatever.
yeah,
Um,
true.
but it is funny. We're like 3 movies in, and we essentially just have a giant gap from D tier
Yeah,
to S tier.
yeah, that's okay. I think I have a couple movies that'll fill in the gaps.
Okay, I do
Yes.
too, but at least one. But
Well, not right now for me, because Paths of Glory also S tier, one of his best movies, mass anti-war masterpiece. Um, yeah, sort of all the bleak themes that Kubrick explores about humans being awful to each other and committing heinous crimes against humanity and stuff like that. All present right here. And it's only like 88 minutes or something like that, or like 90 minutes long. And it's a masterpiece, in my opinion. So this would also be S tier. And I think we could put it above The Killing. I think that would be where
yeah,
fair.
yeah, it's interesting. This is only like 5 years after Fear and Desire. Um,
Yeah.
and this is another one I was incredibly surprised by watching it for the first time this year, and when I hit this, so I love Doctor Strangelove, one of my all-time favorite movies. And when I was going through Kubrick stuff, I was making my little list on Letterboxd, and I put this above what I thought I would end up putting Doctor Strangelove as I was watching through in order, and it remained above. It's in my like top three for Kubrick. It's fantastic. It's like everything that you expect out of Kubrick's like just cynicism and kind of world perspective, and it's kind of a harrowing movie at times, but it's incredibly well made, and uh,
Yeah.
definitely shows it feels very Kubrick. You know, like this feels like his movie for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd also agree just putting it currently at the top of S tier.
You put it under The Killing.
Am I going backwards? Oh, wait.
I don't know. That's interesting. I imagine the left side is the top number one,
Oh, okay.
and then
Oh,
the right side is worse than the left side and within the tier.
you're right. And I knew that doing the D tier, and then I forgot that on S tier. I don't know what listen.
It's okay. The podcast listeners are like, "What the hell are these guys talking about? We can't see any of this."
Well, that's okay. We've got Paths of Glory right at the top now. Incredible. This was
Yeah,
a very shocking movie for me.
yeah. I'm glad you watched it. It's cool that you've gone through and watched all the Kubrick movies now. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like I have seen
you'd
less
seen the
than I
big
really
ones, but
thought, but I see, yeah, I mean, most of the good ones, I would say. But again, I mean, I was like surprised by Paths of Glory. Even this next one, Spartacus, I was actually pretty surprised by. Uh, this is this is his a epic that he makes. Certainly different than a lot of his other stuff. 1960, and I think this is kind of like a director for hire type thing. Like this wasn't really in his creative choices all the way through.
yeah, I believe there was a different director to start. I don't know when he hopped in. It might have been during pre-production. I don't think he hopped in during production. But yeah, it's like based on a Dalton Trumbo script, I believe, and it definitely doesn't have as much of a like Kubrick's signature on it, in my opinion. So it is like it's a good, well-made movie, but to me, it's one of his weaker movies. I'd probably put it in C tier personally, but yeah,
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because I still really liked this movie. But yeah, I mean, thinking about just the rest of the stuff that we're going to be coming up to, I, I could agree either C or B tier, but just because I can't imagine anything else after this really falling in B tier specifically. Um, I can see it in C tier for now, and then
yeah,
eh.
we can see if we want to move it.
um,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that much to say about Spartacus, I guess. Like it's very
yeah,
long. It's very I don't know. It just doesn't have that Kubrick flair, I guess, as much. It's a little if you could watch it and not know that it's directed by Stanley Kubrick, basically.
right. Which I think even if you do, even if you are impressed by the movie and everything, it's still, I mean, I think it inherently kind of loses some value on a Kubrick tier list because it doesn't necessarily feel as Kubrick, even as like uh like Killer's Kiss almost like has more Kubrick like theming and stuff in some ways.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
I kind of I mean, should we move on to Lolita? Because I kind of feel
yeah,
similarly about Lolita. It I don't know. It's also like kind of a crazy book to try to turn into a movie. It's all very like first person internal monologue, and movies are kind of the exact opposite of that. It's just seeing people from an outside perspective for the most part. Uh so yeah, Lolita I would put in C tier below Spartacus probably. Probably my least favorite of his. The first two feel like he's getting his grips, and then Spartacus and Lolita feel like he made studio movies and he was I don't know. It's interesting because that he makes The Killing and Paths of Glory, and they're so incredible. And then I feel like he takes a couple steps back, maybe gets eaten up by Hollywood a little bit in Spartacus, like can't fully have his vision on screen. I don't know if that's the case with Lolita, but yeah,
Yeah, I definitely feel like he's missing a lot of his like the stuff that people love him for. I feel like isn't entirely present here. And I mean the the movie is kind of a controversial source, right? Like I mean, even beyond like the ability to adapt it, I, it's got like some strange content. You know, it's about like the
it's about
abuse of a young girl, right? And everything.
yeah,
So
from the perspective of the abuser, the
yeah,
pedophile.
so definitely, yeah, right. So definitely a lot of kind of a weird movie to watch. Not a
Yeah, and it
particularly fun movie.
Yeah, and it has like Peter Sellers in it, and there's like kind of some like comedy in there, I guess, like kind of going for some dark comedy in some scenes. It's a very weird tone. It doesn't really work at all.
Yeah. So I mean, I would be happy putting it bottom of C tier for now. I would even like personally, I could see it going in D tier, but I do think it's much more competently made than like Fear and Desire
Right.
by far. But uh, with that said, I didn't particularly like the movie. I thought it was a little uncomfortable to watch, and especially after like just like watching so many great Kubrick movies and then watching more great ones after this, it's just an odd standout. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I don't know that I have that much else to say about Lolita.
Well, Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah.
I love this movie. 1964, long ass title, Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Yep. Nice. Good job.
Thank you,
Pulled it
thank
off.
you. um, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, this
Classic
movie's
comedy.
amazing.
One genius dark comedy. No, there's no fighting in here. This is the war room. They throw pies at each other's faces. It's awesome.
Peter
Uh,
Sellers plays three characters.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
One of which is like literally, well, the titular Doctor Strangelove, who's like a what is it, Operation Paperclip Nazi
yeah,
that like came over to, you know, I don't know, be a scientist or a strategist or something. And yeah, it's crazy. This movie's fantastic.
yeah.
I would personally put it in S tier just below Paths of Glory after watching Paths of Glory, but I
Okay.
could go pretty much anywhere in S tier. Well, no,
If
I want to put it above The Killing, I would say.
you want to put it above the killing, I'll give you that.
All right.
Even though I'd say I prefer the killing, uh, I don't know if I would put this S tier or like top of A tier for me personally, but yeah, I'm fine putting it right where you want to put it. You can have this one.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, I'd be happy putting it below The Killing, still in S tier as a compromise.
No, you have this one, and maybe I can get something later on or something.
All right, all right.
Because I could see like I don't know, Doctor Strangelove is a lot more iconic than The Killing. I don't know, I do prefer The Killing, but I think I'm okay with you having this one if you want.
All right. Well, I will take it. Yeah, this movie rocks. It's a classic. I don't even have much more to say about it just because it's so like well discussed,
Yeah,
well
I mean,
known.
we don't want to. I mean, maybe we should have said this at the beginning of the episode, but we don't want to get into like spoilers. I don't think on any of these movies really. Like,
Right.
I feel like people could watch this and be introduced to things, and that'd be fine. Obviously, for our normal episodes, we do full spoilers for pretty much everything. But I think avoiding spoilers in this would be good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think yeah, I mean, like you said, we want people to maybe experience if they haven't, maybe you haven't seen Doctor Strangelove somehow. Well, it's an S tier, so watch the movie, you know?
I mean, yeah,
Uh
it is 60 years old. There's probably a lot of people who haven't seen it yet.
that's right. Um
I mean, next we got probably I think this has to go at the very top, 2001.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense for this to be at the top. Just probably one of the absolute greatest movies ever made. Completely genius. I think the first 20 minutes and the last like 20 minutes are like the greatest sequences probably in any movie of all time. So pretty much an unimpeachable classic, one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of that. It's incredible. This movie came out a year before the moon landing, and it's
Allegedly.
a year before they used the same sets.
Yeah, we got to put the moon landing on the tier list. Where I'd put it in like C tier. It wasn't very convincing to me personally. No,
Yeah, a little grainy footage, but whatever.
it just looks so fake. I mean, geez. Just kidding.
um,
I'm not that. I might be crazy. I'm not that crazy.
we love 2001. This movie, it rocks. That dawn of man sequence at the beginning, and of course, and just all the amazing practical effects that went into making this possible, especially like you said, the ending sequence, the light show, all of that is done. What do you call it? Like with the camera,
Yeah,
not post.
yeah, and the space effects are still like some of the greatest. They're very convincing. Like for it to have been like 60 years old, and you watch it today, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, again, like it's so incredible. This movie like literally came out before we were able to put someone on the moon, and it looks like technologically more impressive than a lot of uh maybe any space movie that's come out since.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome, and just the themes of evolution and humanity and all those things are fascinating, and it's so cool that it's such like an iconic and influential movie, but it's also so weird and just like what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of opaque. Like it doesn't let you in. It just is like, all right, this is this weird ass thing. It's a lot more abstract than a lot of like popular American movies. And yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, compared to like in a similarly iconic space theme, right, is like Star Wars and
Right.
like polar opposite movies. And yeah,
Yeah. Star
it's
Wars is still good in its own way, but so
oh
so
yeah.
different and so, appealing to well, kids and wider audiences.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Star Wars is a masterpiece. I'm not arguing that, but very different interpretation of a like sci-fi movie,
Yeah.
right?
And 2001's better than Star Wars. Let's be real. It's
Yes,
better.
that is true.
Yeah.
It even looks better. I mean, come on.
Now we're
Um,
pissing off the Star Wars fans. Oh boy. Prepare
it's
to be
okay.
attacked in the comments section now.
We're aiming for the Kubrick fans. It's all right.
Yeah, this is the right video for that. All right. Well, now we got another masterpiece, A Clockwork Orange. Well, super controversial movie, obviously, but a pretty genius satire, in my opinion. Again, like really fascinating themes about. I mean, it's different themes than 2001, obviously, but I just love how the movie explores, free will and this sort of dystopian society in the near future. And just like super definitely a change from 2001. 2001 is very like everything is very almost like perfectly shot, perfectly staged. Everything is very like a perfect object. And then A Clockwork Orange is so much more chaotic and like there's almost this like evil energy like emanating from the movie. And yeah, I think it's brilliant. I would put it in S tier personally.
Yeah, I think this movie is very impressive. And it has the Kubrick flair for sure. Um, I will say I was not I didn't love this movie. I kind of felt felt mixed. I mean, I think it is like very impressively made and feels like a masterpiece in that sense in many ways, but um there was just I mean there was a lot of um like we're following around a terrible character, and especially in the first half of the movie like um I was just kind of like I felt like there was a lot of like tonal mismatch at times where I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be laughing." And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, this is horrific." Um
Right.
and so I
Well, yeah.
and so I think I had a hard time getting past that. But I do feel like this movie is worthy of S tier. Um I don't know. Where do you want to put it in S tier? I feel like I would argue lower, but I'm happy to put it in S tier.
I personally would put it above Doctor Strangelove. But
Oh,
if you, I mean, we can have compromise on this. Uh, yeah, I mean, to me, I would go 2001, Paths of Glory, probably then The Killing, then Clockwork Orange, then Doctor Strange. That would be my personal ranking of them. But we can. But would you actually put this in S tier? Because it seems like you didn't really like the movie.
I could put this in S tier. I think reflecting on the, so I took like a couple of days to reflect on this movie. Um, because
Yeah,
like
because you watched it recently for the first time, right? So,
yes, yeah, and then I took like a few days, and I actually finished off all the Kubrick stuff before even like really putting down my thoughts about it. Um, and I like during that like process of reflection, I think it's easy to recognize like how impressive the movie is, even if I didn't like the movie as much as pretty much anything else other than maybe like our C and D tier stuff, right?
mhm.
So I think even though I didn't like it as much, I could see it being S tier worthy for its like sheer quality, right? And stuff. Even again, like I just that first half just was so uncomfortable at times, and that really got
Right.
to me.
It is, yeah, I do think that's kind of the point is
Yeah,
of in order to make the point at the end of the movie about free will, you need to actually, this is like the worst human. It's like this is a absolute worst person, and should that person still have free will, basically, you
yeah.
know? Um, but if you want to, I would be fine sliding it to the bottom of S tier if that's a better compromise for you.
Well, what if we swap? We can swap this, and you said the killing would be above that anyways. What if we swap these two so we have the killing, then Doctor
I
Strangelove, then Clockwork Orange?
I like that.
All right. I'm happy with that. I feel
All
like
right.
it keeps Clockwork Orange below Doctor Strangelove, which I'm happy
Right. Yeah, I
with.
get that. I get that. Yeah,
um,
I just yeah. I just
yeah.
think Clockwork Orange is so I don't know, it's so interesting. Also like in between 2001 and Barry Lyndon to have this like just complete opposite in almost every way movie is just crazy.
This is one of these like incredibly impressive things about Kubrick is that he has like this like dark satire on like the military and all this stuff in Doctor Strangelove. He has this like really intense kind of realistic and dehumanizing perspective on the military in Paths of Glory and of course Full Metal Jacket. He has like the noir like heist, the killing. He has sci-fi 2001, dystopian Clockwork Orange. He has the horror, The Shining, the historical Barry Lyndon. All these things that are just like pretty much he's like made a masterpiece in so many genre, and it's very impressive. It's like
Yeah.
it's again, it's one of these things like how we're good. I don't see us having much stuff after like we might have to thin out our S tier at some point here and move some
Yeah,
stuff to A tier.
we'll figure it out. We can adjust things if we
Yeah,
need to. But yeah, he worked in so many different genres, and yeah, I think like also I think when people think of Kubrick, it's all like everything is symmetrical and it's all so perfectly planned, and like a Clockwork Orange is kind of not like that in a lot of ways. Obviously there are like perfectly planned shots of like I don't know. There's like this the prisoners like walking around the courtyard or whatever the prison yard, and it looks like that Van Gogh painting, and obviously that's
right.
intentional. But like it also has such a chaotic energy that honestly none of his other movies like since The Killing really have. I guess like his
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I agree, and I think also there's like there is some symmetry here at times of like there's the initial shot or one of the very early shots in the movie. I forget if it's that early, but um where they're like breaking into someone's house, right? And they're knocking at the door, and there's this amazing like pan shot of like the homeowner, and then it pans over to his wife working out, and then she goes and checks on the door, and then we get that almost the same exact, it might be the same exact shot later in the movie when he's when he's returning to that house later in the movie, and
Hmm.
there's like kind of that like duality of man and symmetry stuff that's happening there. But
Yeah.
and I think
And
like frankly I think those are my favorite pieces of the movie because they feel the most Kubrick, but I think it's also okay that he works outside of his norm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's also like sort of, well, I guess it's not Steadicam, they're probably on a dolly, I guess. But like Alex walking through like the shops and all that kind of stuff. Like that feels a little bit more almost like in the shot the Steadicam shots in The Shining. Um so yeah, that's definitely there. But yeah, a lot pretty much all of his movies, especially looking at them now, it's really exploring the darkest and most depraved aspects of humanity. That's kind of the overarching theme in all of his movies. But to to have so much versatility and like genre and ways of approaching that is interesting. But pretty much every movie there's like someone doing some horrible shit to someone else
Yeah,
in one
and
way or
every
another.
character is very flawed. Like he's I think Kubrick was a very cynical person, at least in his art, right? And I would guess probably in life it seems, but who knows. Uh yeah,
I
and
did watch I watched a couple of Kubrick documentaries before this while you were watching through his whole filmography. Um, but there's this one called Film Worker that's about Leon Vitali, who is actually in Barry Lyndon, and that's how they met. And then he ended up being basically Kubrick's assistant for the next 25 years until he passed away. And now he's involved with like you know, archiving and all of Kubrick's stuff basically. And definitely it doesn't show him in the best light as a boss. Very like work you to the bone, like long hours and very demanding and very everything has to be perfect, very like temperamental, but also there I don't know. Leon also talked about sort of the warmth to Stanley Kubrick and how you know how he could be warm and caring for other people, and there was both those aspects to him. But yeah, he was very like didn't do a lot of interviews, kind of kept to himself. Pretty much around this time, I think after 2001, he like never leaves England. Again, he films everything in England, including Vietnam in Full Metal Jacket. They create Vietnam in England, but he was like afraid to fly, and then he just lived in England and pretty much ran everything from there for the end of his. So he's definitely an enigmatic and uh, kind of a problematic figure, especially with like Shelley Duvall in The Shining and all that stuff. So definitely not the doesn't have the reputation of being the nicest guy. Um, but yeah, that yeah,
yeah, which I mean, I think uh that like it's hard to not acknowledge all of that, right? Especially, I mean, I think especially in The Shining and especially in like Eyes Wide Shut with uh Kidman and Cruz. But but
they're fine.
yeah, yeah.
They're both
Um
just kind of, I guess they're kind of crazy. He's a crazy Scientologist. Maybe it broke his psyche for the rest of now. That's why he's jumping off mountains in Mission Impossible movies now because Stanley Kubrick made him walk through a doorway 500 times.
Yeah, yeah. And Nicole Kidman's now just recording. I've heard that AMC thing is actually just she has to do that every time. She's
Yeah,
yeah, she's in a parallel theater to you every time.
yeah,
Um but but also I mean like through that like meticulous attention to detail um and kind of rigor and all that. Um
perfectionism.
yeah, perfectionism. I mean, that can like destroy people, but it also can help them create some really fantastic stuff. And I think even if he wasn't able to put it to use in the most easy way for the people around him, he certainly did put that perfectionism to the use, right? And made many masterpieces.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also like him working, in a completely pre-internet era, like filmmakers and the people behind the scenes were a lot more anonymous and like there just wasn't much information about people, whereas now with the internet like everything is out there. You know about everyone's personal lives and how they are, and if you're just an asshole you can people are gonna hate you on the internet. Like just people are just so people's personal lives are so much more publicly known now. So I think in the past it was like, oh, he's just kind of this enigmatic, weird guy. We don't really know much about him. Whereas now people look back and they judge him morally, I guess, for some of his cruelty to his actors. But yeah,
Yeah, he was indeed a very flawed character, um, which I think works out in his idea of the world, right? Where kind of everyone's a flawed character and um, does some dark shit sometimes.
yeah, and he could tap into that, maybe tap into that darkness, and put it in his movies to some degree. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, that does bring us to maybe.
yeah,
So we took a small break here, but we've got a recap here of in our S tier we've got 2001, we've got Paths of Glory, The Killing, Doctor Strangelove, then Clockwork Orange in that order so far. We've
yep.
got empty A and B tiers. C tier starts with Spartacus and ends in Lolita, and D tier's got Killer's Kiss and Fear and Desire. We are now at is this 1964? I think we've got Barry
Oops,
Lyndon.
75.
That's what
Yeah. Doctor Strangelove was 64.
Dang it.
Right.
Yeah, Barry Lyndon, 1975. Of course, it didn't come out before 2001. That would be weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and this is kind of like his historic drama epic thing. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
weird genre for sure.
Yeah, there's almost like some like dark comedy to it as well, but yeah, it's like a 3 hour long epic. He wanted to make, his Napoleon movie, and he did so much research into that, and it sort of fell apart. And I believe he was doing a lot of that Napoleon research before Barry Lyndon, and then he used a lot of that while making Barry Lyndon. But yeah, I mean, obviously this movie is very famous for, being shot with like natural light and practical candlelight. Pretty much you know, no lights like artificial lights. It was all practical lighting, and a lot of the framing is inspired by paintings, and it's very this is more of the 2001 lane of perfectionism. Every frame looks like a painting, literally. And yeah, it's a very beautiful movie. It's also like quite long and kind of hard to get into. The tone's a little weird. Um, Barry Lyndon got kind of bad reviews when it came out. There are a lot of people who absolutely love it now. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I respect it, but I don't love it personally. So I'd probably put it in B tier, but yeah.
Yeah. I This is another one that I was pretty surprised by going into it. I was not actually looking forward to it.
It's 3 hours long. That's
It's 3 hours
2
long.
minute movies.
It is.
You could have watched Fight or Flight twice in
I
that
could have
time.
watched Doctor Strangelove twice.
Yeah, you could have watched The Paths of Glory and Doctor Strange.
That's right. So I wasn't quite like super looking forward to it. And it's also like I wouldn't say that like era of history is like really one that I'm like I'm not gonna like necessarily run out to watch every movie in that era. But I was really excited to actually watch it going through all of Kubrick's stuff. And I was really impressed. I think um mostly in terms of again the attention to detail, the natural lighting, everything looking like a painting was just very impressive. And specifically inspired in many shots by actual paintings, which is just crazy. Uh, Narratively, it has like a lot of non-linearity to it, similar to like 2001 or uh, uh, even like Lolita or The Shining, where it jumps around a little bit. But
Mainly, The Killing's the main one that's non-linear, I think. I feel like Barry Lyndon has a lot of time jumps,
Yeah, that's
but
what I'm
it's
thinking of. Not really
yeah.
non-linearity, right?
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Like
kind of
it'll
like
sort
time
of
jumps. Yeah.
yeah, like it covers a long span of time, but it kind of just throws you in, and now you're like, oh my God, years have passed. Now he's working his way up the chain of nobility or whatever.
Yeah, and it's kind of more episodic in a way, right?
Yeah.
And very very well divided. And I think I was very impressed by the movie technically. Again, kind of like a Clockwork Orange, but not entirely in love with the movie in the way that I think a lot of people are today, which is awesome. But I did like it, and I think I personally liked it more than even a Clockwork Orange. But um, I could totally see this in B or A tier. I mean, again, we're debating. Like I would probably still call this a masterpiece. I would probably call this and A Clockwork Orange a masterpiece. So we're
Hmm.
debating like masterpieces here, but
Yeah.
I could see this in either of
I
these.
I mean, I'm fine with putting it in A tier, I guess. I do think like once I rewatch, only seen Barry Lyndon the one time and it was years ago. And I'm kind of like when I rewatch it, maybe I'll appreciate it more. Um, so I'm fine with A or B, whatever you think.
Well, I'd say let's put it. Maybe we'll throw it in B for now, because I imagine that A might get filled in with some of our S tier things as we move
Yeah, we
forward.
might work. Yeah, maybe we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, this it's a living machine, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and this brings us to The Shining. Um, this is 1980. I know that one. Um,
Yeah.
and this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I I would totally put this in S tier. This movie's just a total trip. This is a ride in a crazy machine, bringing you to an insane ending, and I really enjoyed it. I think it has a lot of like the Kubrick like symmetry and stuff in shots that I really enjoy. Um, and uh, this is also like oddly, this is like one of the most well written about academically like movies of all time apparently, which is crazy. There's like
Yeah.
everyone and their mother has written about this.
And everyone has their own theory about what it really means, and it's about the Native American genocide. It's about this. It's this all their crazy have you seen that movie Room 237?
I haven't actually seen the movie, but I read a little bit about it, and it's on my list. I want to watch it soon. It's on
Yeah.
Shutter, so
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's an interesting movie of just a bunch of people, maybe I don't know how many, maybe like 6 to 8 people uh giving their crazy theories on what the movie means. And it's kind of it's cool. A lot of people don't like it because they're like, oh my God, these theories are so stupid. But that's kind of what's makes it interesting to me, that
mm-hmm.
people have all these insane different theories and can go off on their own way of looking at the movie. Um, but yeah, obviously a classic horror movie. Um, yeah, I don't really. I mean, have you read The Shining, the book?
No, although
Me
from my
neither.
understanding, this is a pretty bad adaptation of The
Yeah,
Shining.
Stephen King hates it because
Yeah.
it's very very different from the book. But it should be noted, every Kubrick movie from I think Lolita on is based on a book. So he pretty much he would like read books and books and books, or he would start reading books and books and books, and eventually he would be like, "This is garbage anyway," and he'd throw it out and start over again. And he was apparently a very like voracious reader, and when he found like something that stuck with him, he obviously he made it into like a masterpiece pretty much every time. So yeah, The Shining, I mean, I don't know, man. For me personally, I'd probably put it in A tier, but if you want to put it in S tier, I'm cool with that.
Listen, you gave me Doctor Strangelove already. I could I we can put it in A tier. It's
I'm just, I mean,
we got a herd here that we gotta manage. So I understand
yeah,
the
we how many S tiers can we have? I
yeah.
would. Why don't we put The Shining in A tier and A Clockwork Orange in A tier?
Okay. All
Because
right.
I don't think you actually like Clockwork Orange. It seemed like you
Well,
didn't like it very much, and so putting it in S tier is like that doesn't seem like representative of both of our opinions on it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it's funny because yeah, I'm kind of approaching at times I'm approaching this kind of like this is just like a tier list of movies. And in that case, like I think j- like most of this stuff kind of goes in S tier. Like
Yeah, exactly.
he just pumps out like fantastic
This
stuff. It's crazy.
this is what is I think is interesting because like I would like to do some more of these tier lists, and I was thinking of ideas for it, and I was like, oh, we could do the Fast and Furious movies if we wanted to, and like the S tier of a Fast and Furious franchise is probably would be in like C or D tier of Kubrick's movies, and
Yeah.
that's the absolute best of the best of Fast and Furious, but it's kind of its own little ecosystem of things. So yeah. I
Yeah.
think this makes more sense to be representative of how we're looking at things.
Yeah. Are you where would you how are we doing in A tier? So we're putting both The Shining and A Clockwork Orange in A tier. And I think I would
Ooh,
naturally vote to put A
let's
Clockwork
just
Orange below, but
we can put a Clockwork Orange below.
cool.
I'm fine with
Nice.
that.
um and
And
then
now,
we're this is a heavy hitter. Full Metal Jacket has an insane, it's like a 2 act structure, really. It's not really 3 acts. And two very different acts. And I think like the first, like a lot of people, I think the opening scene in this movie is like many people's like favorite or very memorable scene, at least in cinema history. Um Full Metal
yeah,
Jacket is crazy.
yeah, the kind of the general consensus on Full Metal Jacket is like, oh, the first half is great and the second half is not. But I think the second half like holds up. I think
Yeah.
the first half is just like funnier because Arlie Ermy is like screaming slurs and stuff at the guys, so that's kind of funny. But but like, yeah, obviously Full Metal Jacket, it's a brilliant movie about, dehumanization in the military, really. And I think of it as a great anti-war movie. Um, I would put this at the bottom of A tier for what we have. Um, personally.
I'm happy with that. I think
Yeah.
um yeah, it's an interesting one because in a lot of his movies, particularly, well, I think honestly, like, even as far back as like Lolita, he has a lot of like he was huge into psychology. He loved Jung and Freud, and he like a lot of that stuff is very represented in his movies. And I think particularly in like the in Full Metal Jacket, there's and in A Clockwork Orange actually too. There's like so much of that psychoanalytical perspective that he's putting into these movies, and in a way, at times, because of like the dehumanizing nature of them, it can make them a little hard to watch at times. Although Full Metal Jacket to me felt, even though it was hard to watch at times, particularly in the first bit, it wasn't really that hard because it was also kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's kind of the idea with A Clockwork Orange too, I guess, to
Yeah,
some degree. But yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Kubrick is like Doctor Strangelove, A Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket. Kubrick was like kind of a funny guy.
yeah, he could be. It seems like he could be. Um,
um, yeah,
so on to the last one, Eyes Wide Shut.
yeah.
I'm curious because I think you just watch this one for the first time
I
recently?
did. Yeah. It was really good. This is another one actually that I'm kind of sitting on to put into words on like exactly how I feel about it.
Hmm.
Um because uh I really liked it like more than I was expecting. And I'm trying to like let that settle a little bit before I kind of finalize my thoughts on it. One of the really fun things about this is in a way it kind of contrasts Barry Lyndon's like natural lighting with still all like in set lighting, um like natural scenery lighting in a way, but there it's like Christmas time, there's like Christmas trees and like street lights and neon like shop lights and stuff, but there's very little if any like set lighting, right, like things to light up artificially,
Hmm.
and it kind of contrasts Barry Lyndon in a few ways of that, and also just like uh obviously time period and all that. But it also like shows kind of a lot of like paranoia and stuff that um Kubrick is very fond of and represents in a lot of his movies, which is cool. But
Yeah, I love Eyes Wide Shut. This is like one of my favorites. This would go right into S tier for me. Um, so yeah, I think it's just like a brilliant, brilliant movie. I love the dreamlike feel of it. It really does feel like you're, I don't know. It all like it's set in New York City, but it's all shot on sets, and it like doesn't actually feel like New York, but it doesn't feel like London. It's all so just so weird. All these weird characters that he runs into, and sort of, yeah, like kind of with all of Kubrick's movies, it's sort of about that sort of dark underbelly of humanity, and this really shows, and I think also with the internet and who, all of these, Jeffrey Epstein type things and the conspiracy things, this is obviously probably the maybe one of the bigger Kubrick movies that a conspiracy theorist would love. Um, but it adds to like just how creepy and uh, ha- like unsettling the movie is. So I think it's really brilliant. I would put it in S tier.
Yeah. I think again, like this one's a tough one because my thoughts aren't like fully settled, but I could totally put this in S tier. It's probably in like in my top five of Kubrick. My personal top five for Kubrick is probably something like 2001, The Shining, Paths of Glory, Doctor Strangelove, and Eyes Wide Shut, maybe. But those are probably
Okay,
like my personal top five. So I
I
could
see
totally
that.
put this in S tier. I mean, if we're throwing it up.
I see that. My top five would probably be 2001, Paths of Glory, The Killing, Eyes Wide Shut, and probably Clockwork Orange.
I thought you might say it. Yep.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think Eyes Wide Shut should be S tier. And I think The Shining and A Clockwork Orange should also be S tier. I think they should all be S tier. I think we should have seven S tiers, one A, one B, two C's, two D's. That's honestly what that's what I think.
um I mean,
Put them all in S tier.
who cares?
Now this feels disrespectful to Full Metal Jacket though.
It kind of does. I was thinking the same thing. Full Metal Jacket is incredible.
It is pretty great.
But I mean, I mean,
I think Full Metal Jacket being so popular and the what does the like Vietnamese hooker say?
I'm not gonna say it, but yeah.
But that like it's so
Yeah.
like iconic, but in like a bad, annoying way where like annoying people will like joke about it. So then that's part of the reason that I'm like, Full Metal Jacket isn't quite on the same level as those. But if I took the movie on its own, it probably is deserving of that. I don't know. But also like it's not Apocalypse Now. So
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I don't
Um
well no, Apocalypse Now is amazing. Apocalypse Now would be an S tier. Full Metal Jacket A tier. So that's my justification for disrespecting Full Metal Jacket a little.
yeah, well, I I can see Full Metal Jacket as like with in the midst of the things we have in S tier. Um Wait a second, do we have all of our top fives in S tier? Yeah, we do,
Yeah.
right? All the ones we
Yep.
just both. Yeah, that's funny. And it's telling that Full Metal Jacket doesn't make it into either of our top fives. You know, so in a way,
Yeah.
we're
If you
yeah.
if you want, we can put A Clockwork Orange in A tier with Full Metal Jacket if we put it above Full Metal Jacket. So
Whoa,
that it's not alone.
whoa.
Because you didn't like it. So
Well,
putting it in S tier is like, well, I mean, it feels a little too much for a movie that you didn't even like. If this is
well
supposed to be a
hmm.
what's the word?
Yeah, yeah. A
Meeting
mutual
compromise. Yes.
compromise. Yeah.
We're compromising, we're meeting in the middle on this. And so I think it maybe that makes more sense.
Well, now I feel bad that one of your top fives is out of S tier, and I have all mine in S tier.
That's okay. Honestly, like Doctor Strangelove, Doctor Strangelove, The Shining, and Clockwork Orange. Like you ask me on a different day. If I had just watched The Shining, I'd be like, damn, The Shining is pretty fucking awesome. Maybe it's better than Clockwork Orange. So I could go either
Yeah,
way.
that is a funny thing about these movies. Is like I think it, if I was to rewatch like um I actually have literally just rewatched all of these, but
Yeah, watched
I
or
could
rewatched.
yeah, like I could see yeah, watched or rewatched. But I could see like thinking of a Kubrick movie in like 2 years and then being like, well, like there are so many incredibly memorable scenes in all of them, but I could imagine Full Metal Jacket scenes like vividly waking me up in my sleep or something, maybe, um
Yeah,
and so like on those days, Full Metal Jacket might be thrown into my top five even, or whatever. um
yeah, I get that. Now here's a question: do you prefer Doctor Strangelove or The Shining?
this is a tough question. This is
Yeah,
a day-based question. You ask me
yeah,
tomorrow, who knows, but today I prefer The Shining. I think The Shining is uh is just, I mean,
What?
it's more like, so Doctor Strangelove, I wouldn't say comedies are like generally my favorite genre, right? And I would say horror probably is. And so I think that alone maybe throws it up a little bit, just because I kind of resonate more with what it's going for there. And I think Doctor Strangelove is kind of like a standout in comedies for me. I mean, I think there's a few comedies that I really love, and Doctor Strangelove is one of them.
Okay, I get that. What do you think about Eyes Wide Shut versus those two movies?
I think it's probably lower than both of them for me, but really close
Hmm.
to Doctor Strangelove.
Why don't we slide The Shining up above Doctor Strangelove then?
Whoa.
Like that?
Wait.
Yeah, perfect.
So we've got S tier with 2001. We've got Paths of Glory, followed by the Killing, then The Shining, then Doctor Strangelove, then Eyes Wide Shut, giving us 6 movies in S tier out of 13, I think.
Yep.
And then A tier, we've got A Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket. B tier, we've got Barry Lyndon. C tier, we've got Spartacus and Lolita. And D tier, we've got Killer's Kiss and Fear and Desire.
It's
Wow.
pretty good.
It's kind of funny to even like talk about Fear and Desire and Killer's Kiss in, they're very standout. I mean, they're so early in his career, he was learning and everything. But it
Yeah.
is, I mean, looking at his repertoire, like looking at all of his filmography, they're so odd.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like just looking at the posters, it's like they don't seem like they go together. But when you watch them, you're like you see just the way he shoots everything and the themes, like you can see how they all sort of came from the same, he has his interests and the way he does things. Uh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, even in a way, our D tier stuff, those 2 movies kind of feel more, even though they um are more amateurish, they do feel more Kubricky than our C tier movies, I would say, with
Yeah.
Spartacus kind of being like, you know, not entirely his creative insight, and Lolita maybe just, at least to me, and I think to you as well, not really feeling very Kubricky at times.
Yeah. Just kind of being a weird movie that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
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 I think this, I mean, I'm pretty happy with this, honestly.
This is a pretty awesome tier list.
I agree. I think we crushed it. I mean, but it's our tier list, so obviously we think it makes sense. There are probably Barry Lyndon fans out there rioting right now. They're throwing their candles on the floor. They're
Starting a
pissed.
fire.
Yep.
In all fairness, Barry Lyndon, like I said, I mean, Barry Lyndon looks incredible. I think if we were just going by looks alone, like 2001 and Barry Lyndon would compete more for close to the top of the list with
Yeah.
S tier stuff. If it was just like you ignore everything else and you just look at how the movie looks, um, it's a very impressive looking movie.
Yeah. It definitely is. Yeah. And I mean, do you want to make any adjustments to this tier list? Are you
I'm
happy
pretty
with
happy with
this?
this. I feel like I made out. I've got my top five.
All right. I got the killing at number 3, so I'm happy with that too.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, the Killing, I would say, is like, personally, like I was saying at the beginning, it's probably A, or like I could see it in A tier for me, but I'm glad it's up there in our top. Um, we've got, I think we have a good compromise here with a lot of movies too, which is good.
Yeah, I think so. I think we found a nice common ground. This could be a lesson for humanity of finding common ground and compromise. When your co-host doesn't like a Clockwork Orange as much as you do, you can move it down a tier, and that's okay.
Or you can accidentally drop a nuke.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the options, people.
um,
All right,
wow. Well, if
that
you
was
are a
fun.
Barry Lyndon stan and you are hating us right now, that's okay. We appreciate you regardless. And you should tell us how much you hate us.
Yeah, comment down below. Give us some hate comments. Come on, let us know how wrong we are about Barry Lyndon.
Yes, and all of these. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who are just surprised by some of our rankings, like what's above what and whatnot. Again, remember, we're compromising here, but you can totally feel like Eyes Wide Shut is his best movie. I think if that's your thing, that's your thing.
Oh yeah, I
That's a
wouldn't
horny
argue
movie.
in a way, but it's not a very sexy movie like at all. It's creepy and weird,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of the reason it got a bad reception is because people were like, "Ooh, it's gonna be sexy. It's an erotic thriller. It's ooh," and it's the '90s, and erotic thrillers are big. And then they watched it and they're like, "This is weird. I don't know. This is creepy." So then people didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing about a lot of Kubrick's movies actually, where like when they came out, they maybe weren't as well received because he wasn't very good at like sticking to genre, which is a good thing in hindsight. But like maybe in advertising, it might not have been a good thing.
I guess so, yeah. Or at least like not giving people like exactly what they expect of that genre.
Right,
Like he
right.
would kind of go in a genre and he'd be like, "All right, I'm going to make this my own thing."
Yeah. Yeah, which works out really well. Like watching his interpretation of a genre is really interesting today. But
Yeah.
I can imagine if you were going into it with the expectations of 1990s erotic thrillers, you might have been more disappointed.
Or The Shining, you're like, why isn't Jason chopping up kids? Well, I guess
Yeah,
yeah.
crazy. He
It,
made this. Yeah. Ugh.
we're just driving a tricycle through hallways. What are we doing here? You know?
Yeah. 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 And there are probably people out there who, I mean, I would say there's a lot of people out there, I would guess, that like Star Wars and stuff like that more than 2001. Um, because 2001 is like, again, it's not really like it's not a sci-fi action adventure. You know, it's slow and
Methodical.
and yeah, methodical, right? So I think there's plenty of people out there that you know would expect, hearing like with the kind of allure of 2001 today. I could imagine people kind of going into it expecting like Star Wars because they're like, this is supposed to be the best sci-fi movie of all time or something, and then being like, stuck on their phones on TikTok or something because they got bored.
Yeah. Stuck on their mini monoliths. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, just let us know what your thoughts are on all of Kubrick's stuff. Is there anything that you haven't seen yet that you need to catch up on? Because if so, hopefully this motivated you to do that. Um, he has, I mean, 6 of his 13 things we're calling S tier. And I think even more than that we'd call masterpieces. But you know, give
Yeah.
them all a shot, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Even the lower ones,
Yeah, definitely. And this was fun. Like, I think this was a cool idea for an episode. We'll probably do some more in the future. For our half episodes coming up, we're going to do 28 days later and 28 weeks later in anticipation of 28 years later. So we got a little bit of a log jam at, not, no Big Lebowski, not that type of log jamming. But we, our schedule is a little packed for the half episodes. So, maybe we can do a tier list in the future. If anyone has any good ideas, let us know. I was thinking of if we did directors, it's tough because like if we did Christopher Nolan, like, oh well, he's gonna have the Odyssey coming out next year, so then that kind of, so it's tough. Or some directors just, I don't know. Martin Scorsese has so many movies that it would be kind of tough to do a tier list. But maybe we could do the Friday the 13th movies or something like that, like a series or a franchise could be cool too.
yeah, yeah. Like, let us know, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna be backed up with these zombie movies coming up,
Mhm.
but let us know, right? And we are happy to explore some stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, next week we got our episode on remakes coming out. We're talking about Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake and Christopher Nolan's remake of Insomnia. So we're gonna talk about those movies next week. So, subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on the podcast apps, go to our letterbox, Mind Your Movies, all one word. And, we have an Instagram and all that stuff. So give us a follow so you can, catch our next episode.
yeah, and feel free. Both of our letterbox, our personal letterbox, are also
Yes.
linked on uh, our joint letterbox, our Mind Your Movies letterboxed, and feel free to follow us there. You'll see us, as we log other movies. We always talk about some of our other movies in our full episodes, but you can always follow us. I wrote
Yeah.
a paper longer than most of my college essays for my Shining review as I rewatched it. So
Nice.
if you want to read some totally psychotic rambling, feel feel free to take that out.
And do you have a list of your personal Kubrick rankings on Letterboxd?
I do. So you can
Okay.
take a look at those and you can comment on that list even and tell me how wrong I am there too.
Yeah, yeah. I also have a list on there somewhere.
Excellent. Well,
Cool.
in the meantime, though, take care and we'll see you soon.
Bye.